All right, ladies and people coming into the chat room. It is a beautiful Saturday here in sunny San Diego. Every day in San Diego is beautiful. Except one time it got down to this morning it was 45 degrees. Yeah. I didn't go run this morning. I'm like, that's too cold, son. That's too cold. Jason, Nelson, Kim, Dan, what's on? Nelson,
friend.
Nelson, you're going to wax off. I'm going to guess that's some kind of philosophy type thing. That I should be the last one to make fun of anybody's text typing. I'll tell you that. That's right, Garrett. Cobra Kai rocks. That was the fix was in the whole time in that stupid movie. All right. Welcome, everyone. We've got a few people visiting us on this lovely, lovely Saturday. AK, are you ready to say hi to everybody?
I am.
And we are 3, 2, 1, and hello, everyone.
Hi,
Welcome
friends.
to StorySmack. Yes, I live in Southern California, and I'm wearing a hat. I have a bald head.
You're wearing a hat indoors.
Indoors. We are literally heating this room with a candle. Oh, what? What am I wearing? Oh! Wearing the Lions pride again because we fired our coach and GM today, and it is long overdue. Long overdue. Yes, Jason, 45 is too goddamn cold. I don't know where you live, but it's just freezing. All right, babe, let's check your camera real quick here. Shaboop. Oh, I forgot this thing. You guys,
We're getting there.
I
It's
seem
been
to
a big
be
day.
spaced out, man.
It's the whole Lions news, isn't it?
Yeah, Lions news took me completely off guard. Now we'll check your camera. Can you see yourself okay?
Yeah, perfect.
There we are. And we're, of course, talking about The Karate Kid today. Fantastic movie. Are we ready to do the introduction?
I think so.
What do you want to accomplish here?
To make us more centered in the frame.
There you go. How's that? How you like that? That's
Pretty good. How do you like
That's
me now? I like you now.
Right down to Pike 5x5. Yeah. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen in the chat room, we are now going to start the part of the show where we will clip it out for audio. Is that Jude on Twitch?
Jude on Twitch.
Jiminy Christmas, so hip. We'll start the part of the show where we clip it for audio, so all of the jibber jab we've been laying down so far, it will not be on the audio podcast that we'll eventually do. But very soon we're going to have our special guest, Set Movie Maven, and 16th place runner-up in the 1991 All-Valley Tournament. He will be joining us in a second. Lead us in, and 3, 2, 1.
This is episode 60 of StorySmack, a podcast about stories and storytellers in the world of pop culture. My name is A.B. Sigler, audiobook narrator and founding partner at Empty Set Entertainment.
And my name is Scott Sigler, #1 New York Times bestselling novelist, and all I figured out how to do is the wax off part. I've been waxing off, waxing off, and waxing off, and waxing off. And I don't get the wax on part. But the wax off, I think I got that down pretty cold.
I gotcha. We also have, again, back with us today, as Scott said, Empty Set's movie maven, Rob Otto. Hey, Rob Otto, how are you?
Hello, Rob.
Hello, Siglers. How are you?
We're doing great. How about yourself?
Good. I just want to remind you that the wax on makes the wax off so much easier. It just glides.
Gosh, how did I not see any of this coming?
You
and I
should have.
I obviously should have, and I just said, let's just move on.
When I asked you if we could have my buddy Rob Otto, my lifelong buddy Rob Otto, on as a regular guest, you should have assumed we had the same sense of humor.
I already knew you guys back before we ever had a live stream. So yes, I should have known better. But this week, let's get to it. This week we are discussing The Karate Kid, the original Karate Kid from the 80s. And we're doing this partially because it did so well in our greatest sports movie of all time bracket that we live stream twice a week on Sigler and Place.
I'm turning you up a little bit there, baby, just so you know what's going on.
Do you want us to movie? Do you want to give us movie trailer?
Let's
guy?
do the movie trailer guy voice. Here we go. Back to Maine. Daniel LaRusso is a teenager who moves from New Jersey to Los Angeles after his widowed mother, Lucille, gets a new job. Daniel is unhappy at having to move, make new friends, and leave his old friends behind. But he promises Lucille he'll do his best to make a new life in California. After sacrificing a goat and a chicken, Daniel discovers his lifelong mentor who will guide him through the world of Santa Maria.
okay.
Was that the wrong movie?
Well, at least maybe it's a Richard Kadri version in his Sandman
We
Slim.
had a Richard Kadri on. That'd be dope.
Have to. Yeah,
we get Richard Kadri on our show.
So I
That might
actually
have been cut from the theatrical release.
Yeah, I think so.
It's the Red Band trailer. It's the Red Band trailer.
I actually did a similar thing when I was in high school, junior high school, I guess. I moved from
You
New York.
sacrificed a goat and a chicken.
Only in the red line version. Only in the red line version. I moved from New York City to Vancouver, Washington, which at the time was quite a small town on the border, on the Columbia River, the border between Washington and Oregon, and had similar problems going from a big city to a big city feel to a much smaller experience. It was a little bit of a rough time that first season. My brother totally thrived. He was 2 years older. He totally became like the mascot of the high school and wore like a little Daniel Boone hat and everything. He's clean compete. I did not do so well.
Real quick, people in the chat room, Rob, say hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Everybody in the chat room, can you hear Rob? We still got some weirdness going on with our sound, according to Mario. So we're checking. If you were able to hear Rob, say in the chat room that you were able to hear Rob. And we'll vamp until we get confirmation. Let's see. Where were we?
I wanna jump in here on A because that came out wrong.
I often feel the same way about you, especially with your good new haircut.
They can hear you just fine, Robbie.
Yeah, we can hear you.
I would like to follow up on A's excellent point. Because Scott, you bounced around a little bit when you were younger as well. And
That's right.
That idea of moving into the new town. But I grew up in Sheboygan, never lived anywhere but Sheboygan. But this has the whole fish out of water thing that I think every teenager feels at some point, even if you've been surrounded by these people your whole life. So that was kind of neat. And the cool thing about Karate Kid was, I mean, think about it. Movies in the early 80s that surrounded teenagers were slasher films, raunchy booby comedies.
Love them.
Not that there's anything wrong with
Porky's,
raunchy booby comedies.
Porky's, for example.
Yes, right, exactly correct. Or like the very melodramatic, oh, my parents are getting divorced kind of movies.
Yeah, you're totally right. Everybody went through a similar thing.
Right, but this is kind of cool that it focused on a teenager, and it was kind of more normal than any of those genres.
Okay,
I got to tell you, I never walked into the cheerleaders getting undressed in the shower when I was in high school. So I was a little disappointed, a little let down, truth be told.
Well, and I'll tell you, you make a good point. When we were rewatching for this cast, we've been doing this a lot lately, and sometimes movies don't quite hold up. We had sort of talked about a similar thing with Caddyshack, where it held up okay, but at least for me, it sort of looked like a product of its time back in the day. This one holds up really well. I didn't ever cruise like they do in the movies. We talked about that a little bit, and I'm sure you probably did. That was a more Midwestern.
That was all we had to do in Sheboygan.
Yeah, we had nothing else
and I couldn't do that
because
because no car. But yeah, this one held up really well in that exact regard. It had this lovely. This feels like this sort of feels like home. This feels like an experience I had, and there's not any super tragic, super weird kind of thing like, Cobra Kai doesn't kill anybody or anything like that, which would turn it into that didn't happen in my life kind of thing.
Again, red trailer, I think.
Yeah.
Hey, what are we drinking here? This is lovely.
We are drinking each time.
Cheers to you guys.
Cheers to you guys. We are drinking something called the Brush of the Bush. Oh, Lord sakes, you guys. I'm a brush of the bush. It is from Shaker and Spoon. As you guys know, we got a gift subscription to Shaker and Spoon, so we make them here just to try new things and let you guys know this is a mezcal drink. It's pretty tasty.
And since you guys were having a brush of the bush, I also, since this really cool couple from California, alliteration is alive already. This really cool couple from California got me a Shaker and Spoon subscription.
Looks good.
And I have exactly the same thing.
Buddy.
So
except yours is cuter with the umbrella.
Cheers,
guys.
Cheers to all of you in the chat room. Jaunty Umbrella Rob. Stephanie Savinkoff, yes, I'm feeling drastically better. Although my tolerance for cold apparently is vanished.
Ooh, that's a steep drink because it is mostly just.
That's got a little punch to it.
Mostly just mezcal, so of course it does.
Better a drink in my mouth than 2 rushes in the bush.
I mean,
better a bush in my mouth than 2 drinks in the brushes.
Wait, sure.
I don't know where this is going.
Well, I know it's not going anywhere.
If you don't brush your bush, then you'll get dead type disease.
Yeah, so Howard, this is totally not sponsored in any way, as you can tell, because they would not allow all this naughty talk. But if you go to Shaker and Spoon, and the end is an ampersand. But if you Google Shaker and Spoon, it'll come up. It's a monthly subscription where they send you everything but the alcohol,
Yeah.
which is nice because you can source that locally, pick your favorite brands, that kind of thing.
Jason Brown, I turned that video off because screw that video. If it bothers you, go damn it bothers us, Jason Brown. Let's talk about, let's get into the movie. And first of all, the thing that matters to me more than anything else, it's about them ducats, y'all. It's about the box office. Art, smart, fart, don't care. AK, how are we looking on the numbers of this baby?
So the Karate Kid cost $8 million. The budget was $8 million. If you adjust that for inflation, that's about $20 million today.
Okay.
And it took in, back in the day, just shy of $91 million in its box office in its original release. Adjusted to today's dollars, that would be $228 million.
God damn, that's pretty much. I mean, there's no way. And does that include foreign or does that include DVD? Any idea? Or is that just straight box office?
So it's worldwide box office,
Okay.
but it's just box office. It's not streaming and it's not DVD releases or whatever.
I think what you put down is that was just the domestic take, not even the.
Yeah, I checked it again this morning, and that was the worldwide.
That was worldwide. Okay.
That was the worldwide.
But here's the thing about Karate Kid: it was in the top 10 movies of the week for like 6 months.
Okay.
It was one of those movies that just kept going, and nothing would knock it out. So that obviously helped it pick up its box office.
Robbie, do you know, did it come out with a bang or was it one of those slow builders, slow burners?
I gotta admit, I don't recall, because remember, in Sheboygan, we got movies 3 months after everybody else did, so it probably didn't matter to us. I think this was very well promoted and very well pushed.
Okay.
So yeah,
Okay.
I think it likely came out with a splash, especially since it got an Oscar nomination.
Oh,
so.
of course.
For sure, yeah.
Let's give a quick shout out to Colin L. watching on YouTube, who just pre-ordered Mount Fitzroy.
Cheers, guys.
Hey, cheers.
Sir, well done. Well done.
Rob's mentioned a couple of times on this cast since he's joined the idea that back in the day when a lot of these movies were coming out, they released on purpose on each coast because they had a physical print that was many
right.
reels big that they had to get. So if you think about it in that regard, and I also don't know if this came out strong or whatever, but that it was doing well enough also gave them time to be like, oh, hey, Larry, let's make 5 of those instead of just
More
one
prints?
more of those so
Okay.
that they could go in bigger places. And then I wonder if that's part of the wave of 6 months always in the top 10 movies kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, so we've established it was a juggernaut, a behemoth, a leviathan. And
Yes.
now we're going to talk about what made this movie. There are several elements that made it magical. A straightforward hero's journey, revenge, plot, script without the severed chickens. But we've got a solid teen drama. We've got solid feel good. This and that, but what really made it when you combine with those things is let's talk about the cast. Let's talk about the actors.
For sure. So I'll also say before we begin, I think you just said hero's journey, and I find now I'm thinking about what Rob said at the top of the hour, where this is a journey everybody went through in some form. So it didn't matter that Daniel LaRusso's a dude. It didn't matter that he was a karate dude. I was neither of those things. I still got bullied, and I said at the top of the hour I had a little bit of a hard time adjusting to a new school. So it's kind of an everyman journey too.
I went through some element of this. There was, of course, Sheboygan High School, Sheboygan Junior High, like every other school in the world, has its fair share of bullying, and being a super, super scrawny, tiny human being.
Yeah.
My real life Karate Kid was when we got wrestling when I was a junior. And as I've said many times, this is the first time I was ever competing against people my own size, but the amount of confidence building that gave to see if I put in all of this hard work and am willing to get punched in the mouth repeatedly, there are massive benefits for the hard work and for all the discipline. And Joshua Loya is a martial artist. He's in the audience now. Learning how to take a beating and get up and keep coming, which is kind of the center point of this movie, and fight through pain and endure is that resonated dramatically with me. So this movie still resonates huge with me. Rob was a beast in high school wrestling, a beast.
Let's not talk about that.
But
I felt beastie, but I was not even sure what that means. It must be the mezcal talking. But,
must be.
But that's a great point, and the casting really shows that. Daniel LaRusso, Ralph Macchio was 6 inches shorter than they made all the Cobra Kai guys tall.
Yeah.
So they were physically imposing to him. And then you bring in Pat Morita, and he's a foot shorter than Ralph Macchio.
Yeah.
Right. And so, yeah, that's that whole idea of you're the underdog because you're physically smaller, but with the hard work, you can take guys that are bigger than you.
Yeah. Well, and I also think that hero's journey thing, this was a specific area of expertise for this particular director. This movie was directed by John C. Advilson. I believe.
That's the gentleman we're looking at right here.
That's the gentleman hoisting his Oscar, for which he won for. So you may not know his face or his name.
That's a euphemism right there. I'm going to go hoist my Oscar.
Ain't anybody going to misconstrue that. Everybody's going to be like, wait, did he really win an... Oh, no, talking about something else. But everybody is going to assume that dude won an Oscar. And he actually did. You may not know his name or his face, but he was an absolute workhorse in Hollywood when he was working. He directed the original Rocky, which is what that Oscar is for.
Oh, what?
That's what I'm saying. Ain't anybody going to mistake that he's talking about his pee-pee because he won an Oscar for directing Rocky. Yeah?
I was very behind in preparation this week.
He could talk about his pee-pee.
He probably could because he also directed Rocky V, which was meant to be the final. So he was supposed to bookend it.
Is that the Machine Gun Tommy one?
No.
That was the guy fought.
No. I'm trying to think. It's not.
5 was the...
4 was Creed. No, 4 was
4 was Tommy
Dolph.
Gunn.
Yeah.
5 was Mason Dixon. It was quite forgettable.
And that was meant to be. He was meant to bookend that series, but of course they made more, which is fine. He also directed all 3 of the original Karate Kid movies. He directed Lean on Me, and this is a little personal favorite of mine. It wasn't a very well received movie, but he made 8 Seconds with Luke Perry back in the day, and 8 Seconds is the story, a true story of Lane Frost, who was a bull rider. And the 8 Seconds refers to the record-breaking ride that Lane had. And it was just a lovely performance by Luke Perry. It isn't a great movie, but it was a gorgeous performance by Luke Perry.
He just died, right?
I think that's all the story smack we need to do on 8 Seconds.
Fair enough. You're totally correct. I know it's got a soft spot in my heart. But so John, he was quite a good director for this kind of hero's quest story, for sure.
Yeah. So that is an amazing resume, as Dawn points out in the chat room. But let's go on to the gentleman who now you could have had several people who could have played the role of Ralph Macchio's role, and not that he didn't do a great.
Are we doing Ralph Macchio?
No. I'm saying not that he didn't do a great job and was perfect for the role, but really what made this movie was this gentleman.
Yeah, for
this
sure.
gentleman made this movie.
Pat Morita, no doubt about it. And it's interesting that talking about other people that could have done this role. So there was, back in the 70s and 80s, there was a guy by the name of Fumio Demura, who was a Japanese karate champ in Southern California. And they basically said they kind of based Mr. Miyagi off of him. And they actually considered maybe he should just play the role himself. But they decided, well, we actually probably need an actor since he's the cornerstone of this movie. But Fumio actually was Morita's stunt double, so he did get to be in the movie.
Was he the same size? Was he another little tiny guy too?
Yeah, he was a little tiny Japanese guy.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, he really was him. So, like for instance, the scene where he's kicking the Cobra Kai butt, when they're all in the skeleton costumes, that's Fumio. That whole time. That's
you're
him.
kidding.
Only the close-ups are Pat Morita.
Yeah.
He did all of Morita's intricate karate work during the movie.
Oh wow! That's it, and it makes sense because that was in Darkness and Shadow. Remember back in the day, less CGI. So
You'll notice during that scene, you pretty much only see Miyagi from the back. That's because he has a different face. Jerry Weintraub, who was the producer, also was looking at Toshiro Mifune, who, if you're a fan of Japanese movie, of Kurosawa films, samurai movies, essentially, from back in the day. And he was the star of Seven Samurai, which is really the most famous one. And they considered him, but they were like, well, there's some lighthearted things that we're just not sure that he can pull off. So the director, Avildsen, wanted to go for somebody that had comedy chops, but Weintraub was just like, well, this Pat Morita guy, all I know him from is Sanford and Son and Happy Days. And I'm like, what? And they brought him in, and he grew up in California. And so he didn't have a Japanese accent. Yeah, his parents, came over from Japan, but he didn't have a Japanese accent, and Weintraub wasn't convinced. So they actually got him. He grew out that Japanese-looking beard and came in with a Japanese accent. And Weintraub saw the screen test and went, "Oh, okay, yeah, he'll work." He'll do okay. And honestly, and it's funny. Nuriaki was his given name. But when he was a kid, he was in the hospital a lot, like from the ages of 2 to 11. He had spinal tuberculosis and was in body casts. And they were afraid he was never going to walk, that kind of stuff. I mean, this guy's got an amazing life. But one of the priests that was at one of the hospitals said, well, I'm gonna baptize you, and you're gonna be Patrick Aloysius Nurioka Merida. And so everyone just started calling him Pat, and that's the name he had. And all of his acting gigs, he was Pat Merida. But Weintraub was like, well, it'll look better on the posters if he looks more Japanese. So they got him to use for the first time as a professional his given name, Nuriaku. It was his real name. But he'd never used it professionally before, and only used it for the Karate Kid movies and a couple other appearances in his professional career.
Really?
But
Interesting.
they wanted him to seem more Japanese, apparently. So it worked.
Okay.
And you actually brought up I didn't know this, and it was really interesting to me that the headband, which is so essential, such essential branding to the Karate Kid, actually wasn't part of the script originally. You said that he happened to have it and gave it kind of in an improv way to Daniel to have him put it on. And then my favorite part of this, he got to keep it. Like Ralph Macchio has it to this day, which I love.
Wow.
Yeah. And if you
Wow.
think about it, that like seeing that and seeing the Cobra Kai make you think about this particular movie.
Yeah, literally it's just
Cobra
a
Kai.
headband that Pat Morita had. And he was like, so the first scene, he's actually wearing it first when he's first working on the bonsai trees.
Yeah.
And then he eventually gives it to him. It's like the passing of the torch. You are now my student kind of thing. None of that was in the script. Pat just did it. And they were like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then of course that headband appeared in every damn Karate Kid movie after that.
It's very brandable.
Something that Pat pulled out of his pocket. So thank God it wasn't like like a bloody snot rag or something like that. It would have been a whole different movie.
But I mean, this is such an iconic part of this movie, and to think it is exactly the sort of same fruition as "I Love You, I Know" is in between Leia and Carrie Fisher and
Harrison Ford.
Yeah. Improv'd that, and everybody knows that story, and this is just as iconic for the movie, and I never knew that. It's interesting.
Well, another thing we almost missed out on was the drunk Miyagi scene where he's got his army costume back on again. And honestly, what everyone who's seen it since, they almost cut it just for time. They're like, we're running about 8 minutes too long.
God.
Let's get rid of that scene, right?
It's the deepest scene in the whole movie.
Thank you. That's the heart. That's when Miyagi stops being just some guy teaching him karate, turning into, wow, I'm really connecting with this guy and we're actual friends. He's more than just my teacher kind of thing.
And he's a father figure by then too, like in a whole cloth way instead of just a teacher.
Yeah, because as Scott mentioned, there is no other father figure in the movie other than him. So that scene they almost cut for time. And people will say the reason Pat Morita got an Oscar nomination was because of that scene, because he's so great in that scene. And the one thing, because remember he's talking about, and his wife and their unborn child, they die during labor in an internment camp.
Yeah, it sucks.
A Japanese-American internment camp, which is just one of the darkest moments in American history as far as I'm concerned. And he's got his uniform on, and you could see by the patches and everything, he was part of the 442, which was an infantry regiment that was real and was primarily Japanese Americans. And to this day, it is the most decorated small unit in all of United States military history. And so these people whose families were in internment camps, relocation camps, right, back home, are overseas fighting the Germans while their families have no rights back in the United States, and they went in there and they were the best unit of the war. So, kind of. And,
this is a lighthearted family drama, basically. But the directors and scriptwriters still went to the effort to showcase this black mark on our country's history. And if you guys want to read up on some bad, I'll pay the fine. You want to read up on some badass motherfuckers, read about the 442nd. They were straight up beasts, and they were hugely influential in the war. They had one event that saved an enormous amount of lives when other people would not go in. They went in, and you should read up on that on your own time. It's great. But let's move on to the young man who hit. I'm not saying he's a one-hit wonder, but this hit was so big. How do you follow up on this with your pegged pants and your flipped up denim collar?
Dude. And the thing is, there's so much about him that's such an interesting piece of this movie. He was, as I understand it, he was not even the first choice, second choice. He was somewhere in the top 10, I guess. But I feel like so much of he just has such an honest, readable face. And I think quite a lot of his success was just like when he's super mad at Miyagi in the beginning, he's super mad at me. Like you can read that on his face, and that I think is a rare quality, especially in a young actor.
I'll jump in with I think the thing he did the best, the thing he communicated the best was the deer in the headlights. And if you've ever been a young man or young woman, however you identify, and been forced into a physical altercation that you are not at all prepared for and didn't see coming, that open mouth, wide eyed, like what is happening and how do I deal with this? How do I get out of it? Ralph Macchio nailed that. Could have been his whole screen test. Like, okay, guys are coming to beat you. What are you gonna do? He's like, you're hired. That's it. We got you. You're hired.
And the look of despair when you think, well, okay, now they're gonna stop. Like after the first time he hits Johnny on the beach, he's like, okay, we're good, right? And Johnny's like, oh no, hell no, we ain't good. And he's just like, well, wait, we're supposed to shake hands now and be best friends.
Yeah.
Now, ain't that kind of movie.
And this is amazing. Charlie Sheen and Sean friggin' Penn were offered the role and turned it down.
Weird.
Kyle Eastwood was passed over. So his dad Clint banned Coke products from his future in movies because Coke owned Columbia Pictures at the time, and Clint Eastwood said, "Fuck those guys." That's a quote.
Gosh, I'm so surprised that Clint Eastwood was a jerk. What?
Character was originally Daniel Weber, but the name was changed to LaRusso after Macchio was cast to embrace his Italian background. Because if we're gonna hit one racial stereotype, why not double down on a couple more? That's great.
Absolutely.
And because of this because this movie's had such an impact on his life, Macchio named his son Daniel, and that brings it all comes all back around and makes it beautiful.
Daniel's son.
So that's what I was trying to. I thought somebody was going to do that, and I had
you can always count on Rob to come home with the easy, funny.
Low-hanging fruit, baby, just like those giraffes.
And like I said, Ralph Macchio was 22 years old in this movie. Fresh-faced 16-year-old Daniel LaRusso, 22-year-old Ralph Macchio, and so skinny.
I would have believed it. No way. I would never would have believed that he was. I would have thought he was younger than all the rest of the teen actors. No doubt about it.
And especially because his body type is very atypical for a 22-year-old actor, which he was actively trying to break into the business. You would think he might have bulked up a little bit, but it worked out for this role. I also think that one of my favorite things is, since it's followed him his entire career, he didn't like the name Karate Kid. He thought it was funny.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I love that.
Let's see. And Robbie, I'm not gonna lie, I was unaware that Pat Morita did not do those fight scenes, because it looked like, because I was like, okay, this, like the fight scene when the kids are all dressed in the skeletons, it's a little it's a little stilted, it's a little awkward, like that's not how fights actually work, but that's a karate movie, that's okay. To find out he didn't do his own stuff was impressive, but Ralph Macchio, you could tell that motherfucker trained up for this though. He looked good.
It's interesting, even when, like they have him in silhouette and he's on the boat and rehearsing on his own after the drunk scene and all that kind of stuff. You can tell by that body type and the way he moves that's Ralph Macchio. So Ralph Macchio did all his own fight scenes, all of his own stunts. The only stunt in the movie that's not Ralph Macchio is when he gets knocked off his bike and rolls down the hill.
Okay.
But he did that. He did takes of that. And then they were just like, it looks too real. It needs to be more exaggerated. So then they had the stunt man, and he does the extra flips and all that kind of stuff. But Ralph Macchio actually did roll down that hill and fall off his bike. He did all of his own stunts and all of his own fight scenes, which is pretty impressive.
Super impressive. Can you be that young? 22 is pretty young to be that dedicated of a method actor, to be like, I'm doing all my own stunts. Yes, I will roll down that hill. Teach me how not to break my clavicle. Oh, you're going to reshoot it because it looked too realistic?
Yeah.
Let me just nurse all my road rash for the next 3 days.
He did from a fighting perspective. I thought he did a really good job. The fight scenes were well choreographed. The fight scenes he is in look a lot more natural than the ones Pat Morita is in. And it's the short jabs to the sternum and just getting the point. They also did a very good job in this movie of it doesn't have to be a spinning back round kick that knocks the bad guy's tooth out with a slow motion trail of blood. They captured the essence of the character and the character's training by just boop, quick jab to the chest. That's a point. And they didn't overemphasize it, and it was part of the magic was he wasn't a brutal, mean, Rocky type fighter. Right. He was just a technician, and he learned very well, and it was great. It was great. Ralph Macchio, I have been informed by my lovely cast that, and I didn't know this. I'm now enjoying the fact I did not have time to read the script. I'm not going to lie.
Scott's learning things as he's teaching you things.
Good thing we have a movie Maven on. It's good thing that there's somebody here who knows what they're talking about.
I'm friggin' delighted by all of this information that I did not know. Facts you might not know, eh? Now I'm on the butt end of that.
Facts only you did not know for this cast, just because we have read this script already.
Ralph was given the 1948 Ford Super Deluxe Club convertible that he got from Miyagi in the movie, and he still drives it. If you had any question that the guy who stars in this movie, cherubic, skinny, lovely Ralph Macchio, was almost typecast, he still drives the car, and he also got to keep the All Valley Karate Tournament Championship trophy, which is great.
So now I don't have any experience. You guys both do. I don't have any experience with you guys have been there at a tournament like this. You've seen the trophies and everything, and I don't have any mapping of that in my life. So I'm wondering, I feel like All Valley tournament is a little nondescript. All Valley Karate Tournament could be. I mean, there's valleys all over the country, but I assume that this was probably just the
San Fernando Valley.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So did you guys do these sorts of things?
We did all kinds of them. Our martial art was wrestling, and you would go, we were in a very tiny town in northern Michigan, and you would get on a bus at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. You would drive for 4 hours and then of course you would sleep on the bus. Well, of course, Rob and I were not.
Fuck around.
You just irritated the rest of your teammates.
It was comedy time, son. We've got 40 guys in a captive audience. You are going to watch our stand-up and our bits. This is what's going to happen.
What I would do was stop everyone else from sleeping on the bus. Is what we would do.
I can totally see that. Not that you guys do that every time you're together.
You would get there at about 8 o'clock. The tournament would start about 9 o'clock. And there were just
and
random
bring in teams from all over the state. And so there'd be 10, 12 teams there.
And so then do you go home like at 8 p.m. or 10 p.m. or something?
We would usually, I remember, and it's a long time ago, the things I remember most about the tournaments was the getting up early, because I probably hadn't slept the whole night. I was a very hyper kid. Getting on the bus, trying to sleep, not being able to sleep. Rob and I just literally just poking people in the head in the bus, in the seat next to us.
Oh, Lord.
And it's all fun and games till you get there. And then the second you get there, the switch goes off. And what I was doing at the time was completely overdosing on caffeine. 6-pack of Mountain Dew, 2-1 for the road bars, anything to get some caffeine going. Then
Jolt Cola.
Jolt. I don't remember.
That sounds like PTSD to me, you guys. As a person who experiences PTSD, that Rob cannot hear you say jolt without going jolt. I'm like, that would make me a little worried.
And then we would get there, and the competitive switch would go on. I can't speak for Rob, but all I did was stare at the guy I was going to wrestle and imagine that he was trying to kill my parents. That's all I did. And then I would just walk around the edge of the mat, like doing, I don't know why, I did this with my hands and just staring at the kid. And then we would go out and we would do battle. It was super fun. And then the tournament was over. Then I would sleep on the way back. And then I would get back home at like 11:30 at night. And I would see my girlfriend, Julie Wonky, be waiting to pick me up. And I would have like swollen lip, broken tooth, black eye. It was a lot more brutal back in the day than it is now. The high school wrestling was.
Very attractive, let me tell you.
Yeah.
And I would get in, I would like usually give a smooch, and then like, I can't kiss anymore, that hurts. Get in her Buick Skylark, and then fall asleep, and she would take me home and wake me up so I would be able to get it. That was our date. That was our date night.
So, Robbie, do you agree with this assessment of the wrestling trip on the bus?
Yeah, I think that, walking in where they had the different rings set up, we would have 6 mats set up in a giant auditorium or a gym, right? And so there were constantly matches going on. So yeah, when you first see them walking into the tournament and there's already matches going on that they have to kind of walk around, 100%, exactly.
It's so
right
great.
feel.
So great,
and
dude.
So
great.
It might have been some made up thing, but it had a real feel to it.
That's why I was asking, because I don't have a reference point for that. But I will say I do have a question. Appreciating that y'all were teenagers back in the day.
Okay, hit me.
You were competing and quite competitive. You starved yourselves and didn't drink water so that you can make weigh-in.
Correct.
Like unhealthy for you both.
I should be 6'2" right now. I'm very unhealthy.
And then you got on a bus at 2 a.m. for a 4-hour trip where then you were going to get your face beat in.
Oh, it's great.
And instead of
wish I could
letting
do it
your
right now.
teammates rest and prepare, you poked him in the head.
That's correct. That
doesn't seem very competitive to me.
I'm trying to figure out what her confusion is here, Scott, because it sounds completely normal to me.
This is I miss that so stinking much.
I just feel like you should do that on the way
Rob,
home when everybody's already competed, and so therefore when they compete, they're the most well-rested they can be.
This will show you how out of whack my priorities were. I got maybe 2 hours of sleep in the 24 hours before I got home to see my high school girlfriend who was there to pick me up.
Yeah.
Because I never did anything but wrestle all the time.
Yeah.
And then I would fall asleep in the car every time. Rob, let's talk about the crane technique. Let's talk about the kick to the face. I'm a little confused. I think because you can hit people in the head, can't you?
Well, okay. So you can kick people in the head, but you can't punch people in the head.
What?
So if you're watching the points, in the you kick people in the back of the head, but you can't punch people in the face. So for instance, both competitors at the end in the final thing, both Johnny and Daniel are at 2 points, and Johnny punches Daniel right in the face, and he doesn't get a point. The ref does this.
But he also doesn't get penalized. Why doesn't he get penalized?
Right. That's the other thing. He probably should have either been disqualified or at least given a warning for that. Now, so kicking someone in the face is okay, but in underage tournaments, the rule is you can't use full power, right? They don't want you to try to hurt somebody as if you were in a real fight. So you have to kind of, hit them at half power, 70%, 80%.
You're supposed to just make contact, and that's
supposed
the point.
to just make contact, right? Not going to injure. So, we are talking Johnny running straight into a full force crane kick from Daniel.
Right.
Now, kicking in the face, not against the rules. Kicking him that hard in the face, that could have gotten him disqualified. And all the people all these years that say Cobra Kai was robbed, Johnny Lawrence should have been the 3-time champion. He should have been able to retire as the 3-time champ. They might have a leg to stand on. It's just
wait a minute.
Wait a minute.
Go ahead,
one leg to stand on. Points for you. Very nicely done.
I thought you'd appreciate that.
2, it's an interesting thing. I of course these days I live with a Lions fan, so indulge me for 1 second. This is an interesting thing. I watch a lot of Lions football, which I didn't necessarily before, and I have to say, when Scott complains about the refs, letting the opposing team get away with a thing that the Lions never get away with.
All the time.
I believe that there is a certain amount of that I don't think it's every time, but I do see that. And so it's an interesting thing because that Cobra Kai, he shouldn't have used the full force and therefore Cobra Kai should have won. Cool. Cobra Kai would have been disqualified twice before that kick happened. Yeah. Once for the leg swipe and the other for the punch in the face.
When he drops an elbow on the kid's knee, you're out of the tournament, son. You're gone.
And
you're gone.
Cobra Kai should be disqualified.
Right.
So if that argument holds water, so do the
Cobra
Kai infractions.
Rob Tinarella is in the chat room.
The Tin Man.
The Tin Man wrestled with Rob and I. It was Rob. Welcome. Love to see you, buddy. Had great times back in the day. Rob was a badass motherfucker back in the day. I will say this. I will settle this with Johnny in the crane kick once and for all. It wasn't that he kicked him so hard he got knocked on his keister. He felt the light kiss of the foot on his face, and it broke his spirit because he knew he had lost. He knew he would not have a three-peat. And he fell down in disgust, disgrace, and disappointment. The 3 Ds, if you will. All right.
But
So
I think
that was pride messing with him that knocked him back, right? That's what it was?
Well, okay. I feel like that's a wrestling thing.
All right, here we go.
No. I have something to say.
Oh,
so
go, baby.
I think that the thing is, I think also part of Johnny's experience is that, his sensei told him to break the rules, and he said, no, I have this, which has happened once before in this tournament with a different teammate, right? Like
Bobby,
when he's looking at him, he's like,
He did break the rules, though.
I know, but it's I don't know how to say this, but I wonder if for a kid like Johnny, it's not the defeat in the ring that was hard. It's that he has spent all this time trusting his sensei.
Yep.
And now his sensei he knows he can never trust him again, and that's got to be super hard.
Well,
like losing faith in your coach, especially if it's one of your first big influences, has got to suck.
This was a huge moment in the movie for me. If you buy all the way in, you're all the way into the movie, going down the rabbit hole. William Zabka's performance in that moment, because he's all the way in. And A and I talked a lot about this after the movie. Our wrestling coach was a gentleman named Dan Kuhn. Dan Kuhn was an All-American wrestler at Alma. And when Dan showed up to Sheboygan High School for our first year of wrestling ever, when Rob and I were juniors, he was living in the back of his pickup truck with his Doberman and didn't have a home. Oh. This is the level of education we got. But we walked up, and I remember we walked up first day of practice, walking up to this guy's car. I was like, I heard that's coach's car, looking, and a Doberman's like, rah, 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 rah. And we're like, does this guy live in his, and there's a sleeping mat in the back of the car. It was insane. And then we get in there, and he explains that, he was an All-American wrestler. Then he spent some time, working the Alaskan pipeline. Then he then he worked the rails on ranches in Texas. And for 15 and 16-year-old boys, we were like, this is God. This is God. Anything that guy told me to do, I would have done. So when you see the scene with Johnny, when you see his heart break, he's like, what, you don't have faith? I can take this guy. I know it's tied. I can do this. You should have faith in me. I'm your best fighter. And watching Johnny get William Zabka's performance getting crushed in that moment, and then going out and doing something he knows is wrong. He knows it in his heart, but the older mentor told him to do it, so he's going to do what the older mentor told him to do. I think that is the most magical performance of the whole movie.
Yeah, I think it's really beautiful. I will also say several people are saying in the chat room that I'm assuming that William Zabka is also in Cobra Kai now. Oh, yeah. So they are playing with this particular concept in Cobra Kai right now, which I find fascinating because I really feel like this is it's a trope in movies that doesn't get enough respect. There's this moment where you think, cool, as long as I follow my sensei, I'll be fine. He's teaching me how to be a man. And then you end up at that one breakpoint moment. And this is going to seem like a non sequitur, but I don't have this experience in my life, but I was huge into music and concerts and stuff like that. And I grew up in New York, so I was a huge Bruce Springsteen fan. And this is a lot in Bruce Springsteen's music, this moment where you realize like, oh, here I am, not on the cusp of adulthood, but actually now being charged as an adult. I have no idea what's happening, That comes up a lot in Springsteen's concept album, Nebraska, talks a lot about this. Like, holy, I'm like a 19-year-old and I'm being charged.
I'm being charged as an adult.
Yeah, I was not on the cusp of adulthood. I'm now being charged as an adult, and I don't the fuck know what I'm doing.
Oh my God.
And I think that is a thing that unfortunately, that Johnny Lawrence has to drag with him into his life. So now I'm much more interested in seeing Cobra Kai because
we'll watch Cobra Kai. That should be super fun. Let's see, Rob, you have some points on Mr. Zabka here in his character.
Billy, quote unquote, William Zabka, as he's officially known there, and tried to go for Billy for a while, and then just tried to come back as an adult and be William. Everyone just knows him as Johnny Lawrence. I mean, he's just Johnny, sweep the leg Johnny. That's just who he is. But does sweep the leg Donald? How does that sound to you?
No, it does not work.
Is there a problem, Mr. Rice? How does that catch you? No?
Neither one of those.
Especially when we're talking about a Japanese guy calling somebody else Mr. Rice. Maybe it doesn't work so well. So,
okay.
Yeah, his original name in the script was Donald Rice. So it could have been Daniel Weber versus Donald Rice for the All Valley Karate Championship. It just doesn't sound right.
No, it does not.
Yeah, so thankfully they changed that up. We talked about some of the fighting scenes, and Johnny Lawrence. I'm sorry, Billy Zabka did all of his fights as well.
Okay,
and he did them so well that when he does that roundhouse kick, when they're in the skeleton suits, that really gets. He actually kicked Ralph Macchio right in the face and bruised up his chin. So the whole rest of the movie,
did that kick make the final cut when he does the spinning roundhouse?
I imagine so, because if it looks real, I'm using that take as long as they got good film on it. So yeah, I'm going to assume that's the one that made it. But yeah, this one right here that he has the whole movie. That's the one real one. All the rest are painted on, but this one was real. The whole rest of the movie because Billy cocked him good. So it's probably not the one that made the cut because you imagine. He felt that he hit him and then probably went, oh, crap, sorry. You know what I mean? So
maybe.
that likely was not the take that made
yeah.
Although I will tell you, there's a lot of places, I didn't include this, there's a ton of places on the internet where there are people who have done a movie-long progression showing how that bruise evolves. Including like things they had to go back and retake or whatever, where like the bruise was this big, but now it is actually smaller, and then you can sort of like it's been filled back in so that it's the same. And it's crazy that anybody has that amount of time in their life. I'm not gonna lie.
Fan obsession is a great thing. Let's go. We're gonna finish up with William because we got to get to clearly one of the most powerful actors in all of this business.
Okay.
Powerful. Yeah.
I know you're talking about Elizabeth Shue.
I am.
Of course. But first, I do have to say, I do also think that Johnny Lawrence is the prototype for the bad blonde boy who's not really bad. He's just misunderstood, right? I think these are huge Draco Malfoy vibes. They just are 20 years later.
Should I tell that real quick story? My Johnny Lawrence version I told you about this after the movie with Coach Kuhn. So we'll make this real quick. We had a... gosh, I forgot his name now, but Jeff Armentrout. I can't remember. Rob, help me out here.
That sounds right.
Jeff Armentrout. Our senior year, so I'd wrestled 1 year, and then I was a more accomplished wrestler my senior year, and all I did was train all the time. I would train, go to school with my dad before, and train before school, go to school at lunch, skip lunch, train, practice, then after practice go do my own personal practice with Coach, and I was an obsessed tiny little young man, and
which is why you did so well,
it went really well. And then we're wrestling, and in my head, this is the Johnny Lawrence scene. In my head, the new kids, the sophomores come in, the freshmen come in, and they, eventually they'll be able to take their beating, but you got to give people a grace period to build up a little bit of understanding and tolerance. So I'm wrestling Jeff, and Jeff's in my weight class at 126. Very nice kid. I can tell he's going to be good someday. He's still got 2 years to advance, but he's awkward in his body, and he's not grown into it yet. We're wrestling, and I'm at a higher level, and we're wrestling with him, and I cross face him, and then I take him down, gently take him down, give him a little bit of the business on the back end, but not too much. And Dan Kuhn, who, remember, I was 17. Dan Kuhn was 26, 186 pound, All-American wrestler, Olympic alternate, comes up and he grabs him by like the back of the arm right here, where he like pinches the fingers behind that muscle, which just paralyzes you. And he drags me over, and he says, "Are you taking it easy on him?" And I'm like, "No, Coach." "Yes, you are. Are you going to do that on a mat?" "No, Coach." "Then you go out and practice, and you do it just like you're going to do it in a match." I'm like, "Okay, Coach." And I went back out against Jeff. This was the Johnny Lawrence moment. I'm like, this kid, he's nice. He's not at this level yet. I should go easy on him. So I blast him in the head, rock his head back, come in, do a suplex on him. Look up suplex if you don't know what that is. Flip him back. He lands right here and shattered his collarbone when I put him down. Like it was like somebody put a suction cup on him, and he just didn't move. Yeah. We had to call an ambulance.
You got to know how to land.
And I get up, and I'm very upset. And Coach Kuhn comes up and goes, "All right, go ahead and do it like you were doing it before." All right, no. Let's move on from William Zabka. Let's get on to this. Oh, hold on. There we go. Miss Elizabeth Shue. I will admit, I knew from watching this movie, like Elizabeth Shue, that's a 20-something young woman.
21. She was 21.
21. I had no idea Ralph Macchio was 22.
Exactly.
No idea.
Yeah. And you think she and for me anyway, she looked more well put together, not physically, but like emotionally and confidence-wise.
And physically.
That fair enough, but fair enough.
She wore some quite tight sweaters, as I noticed.
True.
That's what it
fair.
was, though. She was too erudite, too intelligent, too put together. You're like, it wasn't her looks. I did not get that she was 16 at all, because I'm like, dude, there ain't the smartest 16 in the world ain't that put together.
And normally, if I'm the girl in the chat room or in the StorySmack, I might be saying this from a feminist point of view, and I am not for this. Her character is very minor here, purposefully. Like, it's an important catalyst for the weird whatever makes Johnny hate Daniel. Mm-hmm. But then that becomes a thing of its own as soon as Daniel decides he's going to learn karate. So that goes away. So she's a catalyst, and she's a catalyst in that high school, like, oh, kick sand in your face, how dare you, Johnny, I'm gonna go with Danny, that kind of thing. but
I think that was a direct quote. That was pretty impressive.
But she as a character almost fulfills her purpose there. I think that's kind of her whole role. It's kind of, it's not like she's Adrian, and nobody's trying to make her Adrian in the Rocky movie. She's just kind of the rock skipping off the lake that makes Daniel who he is.
Yeah,
which is why it was so easy to write her out of the sequels.
Yeah.
And ladies and gentlemen, if you've not watched The Boys, I will tell you that if you are a fan of my work and you like the superhero, the sci-fi, but with people that you would go to the bar and get so drunk someone has to call an Uber, and the first Uber kicks you out, so the second Uber comes in and he really needs the money, so he'll take you home anyways. That kind of entertainment that I write, that's what The Boys is. It's spectacular, and Elizabeth Shue is awesome in season 1. You should check that out.
But back in the Karate Kid days?
She took a break from Harvard to shoot this movie. She couldn't go back and finish her degree for 15 years because she knocked it out of the friggin' park and was too busy working in Hollywood to go back to Harvard. And she turned down being in the sequel. She turned it down.
So it's so interesting. This movie has a handful of people who we still know today. Weirdly, several of them we know today because they are involved with this movie. Mm-hmm. Elizabeth Shue, definitely not one of them. Pat Morita, we certainly associated with this movie, but this was the last thing of many that we associated, or several at least, that we associated in his career. But I think Elizabeth Shue is this great every person actor, right? Because she's certainly a geek because she was in this movie and she keeps using geeky movies and stuff like that. But she did really well for herself for being the rock skipping off the lake that is the Karate Kid.
Yeah.
I wonder why she turned down the second one.
Because she was smart. I don't know. Plus, her turning down the second one probably changed the whole scope of it and made it a really, really a fun movie. Not as good, but pretty fun.
And it also allowed them to turn her into a total bitch in the second movie, right? I mean, remember, it opens up with him. She crashed his beautiful yellow car.
That's where it came from.
Broke up with him for a college guy. Yeah. And like at the prom, she does all this. So
what?
Yeah, she probably should have taken it because they totally ruined her character by the beginning of the second movie.
They did. We have one more person to talk about. Rob, I went off script on this. What can you tell me about this gentleman right here?
Martin Kove. Martin Kove. So, of course, Martin Kove also has done a whole bunch of TV and movies since then, but he's the bad guy. I bet everybody knows that he's the sensei at Cobra Kai.
Sensei Cobra Kai, yeah.
John Kreese.
I was going to say, I wonder how many people know his name was John Kreese. I think we don't get a lot of that in the movie, but he is, of course, he has reprised his role and continues to do so, is my understanding. And I love him because he's a lot. I don't know how to say who these people are, and it's not fair to call them character actors, but like iconic character actors.
Yeah, very
where
iconic.
When you see them, Wilford Brimley is another one, where when you see Wilford Brimley, you sort of, you download a set of skills to that character because it's Wilford Brimley. Or
know that he's got diabetes.
Yes, hopefully Martin Kove does not. Hopefully he is okay.
But to A's point though, Scotty, sorry to interrupt. I'm not actually sorry because I'm going to keep talking. Yeah. But to A's point, he plays against that character in the recent commercial he's in, where he's now he now understands how to do all of his business stuff. What made him angry before was that he couldn't keep his accounts very well. But now I run Koala Kai, and it's more mercy, and it's like, okay, he gets it as well, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. I actually had a conversation with a living human being a couple days ago that said diabetes, and it was all I could do to not lose my. Well, he's got the diabetes. Okay.
Diabetes.
All right. So now let's get into. Let's go back to Maine. Let's go back to guests. Keep Rob's pretty face up on the screen. Switch back to here. Now I understand every other week we do this show, and I'm like, it's the most amazing movie ever. Tell me all the awards it won. And the answer is like, well, Scott, Spaceballs did not win any awards. Did this win any awards?
Technically speaking, it did. It actually, the big news here is that Pat Morita's portrayal of Mr. Miyagi was nominated for a Golden Globe and an Oscar, and they were both well-deserved nominations, and he didn't win either one of those things, but I agree with his own assessment, which Robbie mentioned, which is he thinks the reason that he got those nominations is the drunk Miyagi
God, that
scene.
scene is killer.
It is killer, yeah, and it changes him into the same, him into human and Daniel into human in a different way as well. That's it. There was something called a Young Artist Award back in the 80s, and Elizabeth Shue won for Best Supporting Actress, and William Zabka was nominated but didn't win for his portrayal of Johnny Lee.
I'm going to have to date myself here. I'm going to date Rob. Date A. Here we go. Rob.
Yes.
Is this movie so old that the MTV Movie Awards were not a thing yet? Is that why?
Wow, 1984? No. I doubt it.
So.
Remember, MTV would have only been 3 years old when this movie came out.
All you people in the audience who watch this movie and be like, why didn't they win an MTV Music Award? Because you're old. Because you're goddamn old. That's why you didn't win anything. It wasn't around yet.
So the Music Awards might have been around back, but I don't even think
the
they were
movie,
awards.
the MTV
The movie Awards didn't come until 1992.
Okay. So. All right, you guys, we're going to finish up. I'm going to let my two amazing co-hosts of this rattle off are there any interesting points that since I didn't get a chance to read the script?
I'll do a couple, and then if you want to do a couple.
There's only one. You are actually so much more knowledgeable than I am about this movie. There's one thing that I love that I wanted to make sure that we talked about, which is that this as well, that they, the director and the producers chose to have Cobra Kai and Ralph Macchio train separately, completely separately, so that they wouldn't get used to each other's fighting styles and they wouldn't see what each other was learning. And I love that. It's such a smart idea.
So good.
And
it's
not
good.
a rare thing. Like this happens quite a lot in the Avengers movies and stuff like that. But yes, sir.
I have a question.
Okay.
I have a comment. A question. A comment. I can see that because
we've got comments.
When I was wrestling, the guys on my team were, for lack of a better word, sacrosanct. You did not go all out. You did not try and literally break them.
Sure.
Break collarbones unless the coach tells you to.
The second you walk onto a mat with kids from another school that you haven't been training with and watch them sacrifice, all I want to do is straight up hurt them all the time.
Interesting.
I want to be like, I will make you never come on this mat with me ever again, you son of a bitch. I'm going to break you. And the training, but I think that comes across in the acting.
It does.
If you get on the mat with a guy you've been training with all day, I don't know, even a great actor you're still like, I kind of like this guy. He works really hard.
Oh, for sure. And we see this all the time in movie making. We've even talked about it on this cast with Robbie when we were talking about The Shining, where Stanley Kubrick decided he was going to play psychological games on Shelley Duvall because Shelley Duvall's character was suffering from psychologically suffering from having to live with a man losing his mind. Mm-hmm. It happens all the time. I love this one because it's such a subtle thing that you then actually capture when the cameras are rolling. It's super smart.
Yeah.
Robbie,
and you feel like it's your team versus the other team. And that's what they were going for. That's what Cobra Kai would have been. Us against everybody else.
Robbie, give me one of your points here. Hit me.
All right. So DC Comics actually had a character named Karate Kid. He was a member of the futuristic Legion of Superheroes. So Columbia Pictures had to negotiate. And this is before anyone realized we should have asked them to give us some money, because all they did, they got a special thank you in the credits. That was it. They said, hey, we want to make a movie called The Karate Kid. Oh, okay. Just go ahead and give us a thank you. Well, what? Take a point of the cash proceeds or something, Rob. What are you doing? Right? And then the last thing I want to hit, you're the best around. That song, which was the song that was playing while the tournament is happening at the end, was written for Rocky III.
What?
That was supposed to be the training montage music for Rocky III, the Joe Esposito song. Instead, it got replaced by Eye of the Tiger, which
is
I
a
think
good
they
call.
did a pretty good job.
It's a good.
Right?
Everybody wins. Everybody wins.
So then they paid Joe Esposito to get that song to use for the training montage in Flashdance. And then traded that song out for Maniac by Michael Cimbello. So this guy got paid 3 times to use this song.
They were like, no, we
and
love
it only got used once. And it's great. I love it. You're the best. All right.
The music, I'll say this, baby, then I'll let you get the last point and we'll close out. The music in this is, aside from that song, is god awful. If you guys ever get a moment to sit down for another 90 minutes, watch the whole thing, and like pay attention to the music, it's horrible, even by 80s cheese schlock standards. It's awful. Baby,
and that definitely dates this movie, That definitely, the music dates this movie.
For sure. So the only thing is, I wanted to close out by reminding everybody, if you haven't seen this movie in a while, I will remind you Miyagi's initial lessons to Daniel. And there were 3 of them.
Okay.
The first time that he talks to Daniel about what the goals are. First one is true strength comes from the inside. Second, it doesn't matter if you win or lose. Third, never forget to breathe. I think in 2020, we can maybe incorporate at least 1 in 3.
I can appreciate it doesn't matter whether you win or lose at my advanced age, but back in the day,
exactly.
I'll kill you.
I prefer Vince Lombardi's take on that. It doesn't matter if you win or lose, but you better win.
As long as you win, it doesn't matter. So listen, thank you guys. Thank you, Rob, so much for joining us yet again. We are going to watch in 2 weeks. We're going to watch We're going to review A Christmas Story. Would you come back for that?
Woohoo! Hell yes!
Yes, A Christmas Story.
And give me my Red Ryder BB gun with the thing in the stock. It tells time.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Rob. We'll see you then.
All right, Rob. Everybody say goodbye to Rob. Here we go.
Yeah.
Love you, Rob. And let's go back to Maine. Oops, hold on. I know how to work
there
this.
There we go.
Boom. There we go. Black. Boom. Hello, everyone. We are now going to close out this episode of StorySmack.
Yeah, this was episode 60 of StorySmack. You can always find Scott and I online. Scott is at Scott Sigler on Twitter and Instagram, and his Facebook page is facebook.com/Scott Sigler. I am at @arealgirl on Twitter and at a.real.girl on Instagram.
You can find us online at facebook.com/StorySmack, which we update every now and then. I'll get better at that. You can watch us stream StorySmack live at facebook.com/Scott Sigler, twitch.tv/Scott Sigler, and youtube.com/Scott Sigler. We would love to have you join the live stream for 2 Saturdays a month.
Well, and in addition to this StorySmack that we do 2 Saturdays a month, twice a week at 6 p.m. Pacific time, everywhere that you are currently watching this, we do an hour of live streaming called Sigler in Place. If you would like to join us for that, just come back on Tuesday or Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific time right here.
And if that's not enough free stuff for your mug, we do a episode of one of my books every gosh darn Sunday we have for 15 years now, unabridged, uninterrupted. You get those episodes via iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more. Just go to scottsigler.com/subscribe for links. Let me violate your ear every Sunday as God intended it.
And we do hope you subscribe so you can hear Scott's books and more StorySmack goodness and more Sigler in Place goodness.
But until the next episode, baby, we will talk to them all
real soon.
All right. Well,
bye, pals.
Silence. There's the radio cut for the podcast, and now we're going to give you guys all a big kiss off into the sky. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. A big smooch. Rob isn't smooching you, but we're going to smooch you.
I'm smooching. You know
what? No.
You just
Let's
can't see
why
me.
not? Why can't he smooch? Ready?
Let's get our big dating game kiss. Jason Brown, the answer is GFL 6. The rookie will be the next podcast. Dating game kiss.